Okay, welcome back to the Seafarer Social Podcast. And today I have a fantastic guest with me. I'm super excited to introduce James Foong. He is a LinkedIn star, a captain, and has had an extraordinary career in the seafaring atmosphere. And I'm looking forward to have a great chat with him today. Hi, James. How are you?
Hi, Carl. I'm good. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming on board. Okay, James. So, for those who don't know who you are, which I think will be a struggle to find, because as I said, you are a very famous name on the shipping world when it comes to LinkedIn space. Could you just introduce our audience a little bit more about yourself and how you became a captain?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm you can call me James, and I'm actually born in Malaysia. I started my career when I was 18 years old, right after high school, and I have actually received a full scholarship for studying this cadet program. It was actually inspired by one of my family members. Actually, it's my brother. My brother was a ship captain. So when he entered this career, he told me that it is a very tough career, and he actually brought me to another college to actually register for some other courses, which is not something that I wanted. So behind my family intention, I actually applied for some scholarship from a company that is quite well known in Malaysia. It's called the MISC, Malaysia International Shipping Corporation. It's the national shipping company of Malaysia. And actually, I got it. I was actually shortlisted among 200 candidates out from 2,000 application. So I studied there for 3 years in Malaysia. The first college I studied actually was the Malaysia Maritime Academy, MMA. I studied there for 3 years, and then I went on board. My first ship was the Tenaga Dua. It was one of the oldest ship in the whole fleet of that company. It was built in 1978. I still remember it's driven by steam turbine. Even the winches, the deck machineries, most of them are using steam, which hardly to be seen in today's modern ship. Because most of the ship right now we are using hydraulics and motor operate driven. So those are the days that I actually experienced. I was only 18. That was 18 years ago. So I was 36 right now. And I told myself I wanted to be holding my class one, COC class one, which is the Master Mariner license, 10 years from then. So actually, I tried to find ways. So I went to search all around the media, STCW. If you know, STCW is a code by our training. I try to find ways on how to be a master license in 10 years time. I give myself 10 years. So between then, I actually managed to get as what I planned. So by the age I was 28, it was 2016. I finally got my class one in New Zealand. I flew to New Zealand. I took my license there to my class two, class one, and I passed. And a few years later down the road, at the age of 30, 31, I was actually commanded vessel. And then I still thinking what to do next. You see, there are a lot of people actually they stop what they're doing, actually achieve their education. For me, I always think ahead. What should I do? So after my class one, I tell myself, I should get something more than that. So I actually applied to study in Middlesex University in London for an MBA. So I took 3 years to study there in specific in shipping logistics. Then I finished my study. I was 33, 32, 33. I worked in a corporate as a lead auditor. It's a group lead auditor, leading a team of 20 auditors. We actually audit a lot of the floating assets of the company. And I find it not something that I wanted. Then I went back to sea again. And this time, when I went back to sea, I served with great happiness, satisfaction because I knew what I wanted. I went to study in overseas from Malaysia perspective. I went to study in New Zealand. I took an MBA in UK, and then I went to work in a corporate as an auditor. You see, so in the end, I came back to sea, and I think I would encourage a lot of seafarers really have to go out and try something that they always dream of. And then when you come back, there's nothing wrong to coming back to sea. Even for me, I might be going back ashore one day. I have no idea because they always say the future is uncertain. So if one day I'm able to go back to sea, I will try to use my potential on LinkedIn. I mean, that is one of the reason I built my network there because I believe LinkedIn can bring me into my job that I wanted. So actually, it was LinkedIn. It started from LinkedIn. I work as an auditor. Someone approached me as a headhunter. So I think the potential is there for LinkedIn for a seafarer. So I always promote to people the usage, the advantage of using social media.
Fantastic. There are lots
Yeah.
of really, really interesting points there. But I
Mhm.
think the obvious one to start from is, so you said you got your Master Mariner at the age of 28, am I right?
Yes.
That's extremely young. And
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to a few seafarers that have highlighted just how difficult it is to achieve that, especially at such a young age. So
Mm-hmm.
talk me through that those 10 years from 18 to 28. How difficult and how much work did you have to put in to be able to excel that quickly?
Well, actually, I don't think I'm very good compared with other seafarers in terms of knowledge, but I would say I am one of the hardworking one. Hardworking in the sense that I am very curious of learning. So even until then, now as a master, I'm still learning from the juniors because you never know what they know and what are the new things coming out from the school that they have taught. So we always have to have the open minded, not to be too arrogant on the ship. You're thinking that you are senior cadets or you are senior officer, you don't learn anything. I don't think so. We really need to have the mindset that we open up for learning. In fact, I encourage myself to learn things outside what the school have taught me. I think that is the mindset that I always carry with me, even until now. You have MBA, you have class one. I don't think I actually know a lot of things on maritime. I still expose a lot myself. In fact, I learn a lot of things on LinkedIn with maritime professionals in the context of maritime. We have lawyers, potential clients in terms of maritime. So these are the things we really can see outside from maritime. And during these 10 years, I think one of the advantage that I have in maritime comparing others is I have very short time of vacation. I spend a lot of time at sea because I wanted to fulfill my requirement for the sea time to achieve this class 2 and class 1 because I have this plan behind my mind. It's like before you start your journey, you knew, okay, firstly I want to be finished in 10 years time, where I want to study. I do not want to study in Malaysia anymore. Okay, I knew I studied in Malaysia because I was born here. I got scholarship, so by default I should have studied in Malaysia by the company that assigned me. But since then, I think that I have much more money, financial control that I can pursue what I wanted. So for me, as an Asian guy, I always wanted to study in overseas. I wanted to expose myself in terms of culture and not only on the ship with multinational crew, but also in school with multinational credential. Like you see what I'm holding right now, I'm a Malaysian. I hold a New Zealand license and I'm holding a UK graduate paper. So these are the things I always give people that kind of impression that we can do what we wanted if we really want to achieve it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the fact that you highlighted how you're not necessarily the best seafarer, but your curiosity and eagerness to learn more has been what's basically taken you to, achieve what you have achieved at such a young age. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I speak to a lot of seafarers about is the importance of education. One of the things
Mm.
we're noticing nowadays is that this next generation coming through, the Gen Z seafarers, have somewhat of a bad stereotype behind them. People are addressing them as lazy, shorter attention spans, and maybe not wanting to pursue the education as seriously. Because they would rather spend time on social media or something like this, or have an easy way to win. What's your thoughts on that, and how important do you think education is for the next generation of seafarers coming through?
Okay, if you talk about stereotype perspective, I am a stereotype fighter. If you look from the beginning of my sharing, I have been breaking all the stereotype thinking as a Asian guy studying overseas and all these things. So I think we the sky is the limit. Do not want to really concern how people think of you until you have proven it correctly. So I believe these generations, I would really agree that there are certain perspective from the older generation, including my generation, that thinking what the younger generations are thinking about. So I always share it with them. Just continue learning, look for the right people, and mentoring is also equally important because you cannot move on alone. If you move on alone, you get lost and you start to feel very arrogant with a shallow knowledge, thinking that you knew everything, but in fact you are not. You're actually making fun of yourself. So I always try to tell them to avoid that. You need to have a mentor in a sense that is willing to teach you, not only by asking, but also willing to teach you. You can ask, but the thing that people like to provide you the answer is another level for thinking about that. And I would say that they really need to think about the opportunity of studies. And also, if you look into racism, is one of the perspective, stereotype perspective, as in certain nationality of seafarers, like example like Filipinos, they have certain stereotypes. People thinking what kind of seafarers they are, or the Indian seafarers, or the Malaysian seafarers is one of the minority seafarers. But if you talk about the bigger group, like Indians, Filipinos, and you think about Chinese, So for people like this, I think they need to work harder to break even thicker stereotype mindset from the public, especially their seniors who, when you join a ship, people look at you, hey, you are a young man, Asian guy, you might not have a very strong knowledge and all these things. I would say first we really need to acknowledge that, because if you do not acknowledge that, acknowledge doesn't mean accept, you see. So acknowledge means that you have to know how the seniors look at you, and then you have to prove it yourself. Try to avoid being making fun of yourself, because when you join the ship, most of them will look at you as a first impression. You see, the first impression is always the last impression on the ship. I mean, sadly, that's true. So when a young chap coming on the ship, the first thing we have asked is what school they come from, because to us school is very important. Are you from Washer Academy? Are you from Indian National Academy? Are you from somewhere that we never heard before, or are you from John Moores University? See, so these are the very famous school that first we fix in our mind. Oh, okay, as a captain, as a chief, you see, oh, this is the cadets from this so-called distinguished academy. Performance is another thing, but we talk about perspective, impression, the first impression. So I would believe the credential of a school is very important, because there are a lot of rumors saying that there are some nationalities they can actually purchase by money to buy a license without taking any exam. So there are some, yeah, they have some what do you call it, recognition issues from certain country. That is why some of the employer, they do not hire certain they hire certain nationalities with certain license issuing authority. So they this is the things that we actually look about. Are you from Hong Kong? Are you, if example, if you're from China, which China? Are you from Hong Kong, China, or you are from the mainland China? If you are from Hong Kong, which is the former British colony, as a Hong Kong citizen, their perspective will change. They are Asian, but they speak very well English as a Chinese. So I would say nationality comes as well after education. And of course, the next thing is we always need to be ahead of the game. Never let the people knew that, example, you finish uh, work at 5 o'clock and you really finish at 5. You can't, because for the younger generation, I always told them, as long as you are not a captain, you are not a chief. Even for us, we still learn every day on the ship. So you don't finish at 5, you go back in your cabin at 5. You're still learning. There are a lot of things on the ship you can learn every day. You see, so, and I witnessed some of the cadets that I actually influenced them. They really took their time out to study, and I told them work time is not study. Work is work, study is study. So because to some of them, they really thought that, oh, I work with an officer today, I clock my study time today. No, you work with a third officer, you really work with concentration. And when the third mate is sleeping, you have to do your own studies, your own assignment to complete for your cadetship. And I noticed one of the cadets from China. Actually, he has been quite amazing. I saw actually his English not so good. He used a pen, I think, made by a laser. Obviously, it's from China technology, where it can scan through the words on a paper. It can scan through, and with a with a cable plugged in his ear to translate by audio in English. So this guy, I noticed, wow, okay, this might be the future of China. Although their mother language is not Chinese, but they still took the initiative to learn. So the same thing, I spoke with a British cadet, which is on the same ship. I said, you see, for a British guy or for English speaking guy, you do not have that kind of blockage for learning, which means you learn really directly learn with your own mother language, with your own national language. But for the rest of the world, especially like China, they might come from a village, might come from a province where they never exposed English before that well, maybe have basic English. So they might have a little bit more steps compared with English speaking cadets or junior officers to learn the same thing. And like I said, you have to be hardworking. You don't have to be very expert in something, but you really have to be hardworking, harder than other people in terms of breaking the stereotype for to enjoy the rest of the time on the ship. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That was really interesting. I think the first thing that stood out to me, and maybe I'll make it the caption of this podcast, is the stereotype breaker. I really like that.
Yes.
But it's so important. I think you're totally right. Sometimes there are a lot of stereotypes around Gen Z people, and not even just in seafaring, just in business world, period. But I think you're right, actually. Especially in seafaring, it's so important to prioritize your education. That's how you will go on to become a better seafarer, a better officer, and have the best career you can. Another thing you mentioned in there that I wanted to speak a little bit more about was the concept of the importance of having a mentor. Were you somebody that had a mentor yourself?
You mean, do I have someone that mentor myself? Yes, I do. In fact, if you ask me who to invite next on your podcast, I will actually mention his name. He's a sorry, he's a British guy. Gordon Foot, his name. I think you saw him on LinkedIn. He's actually been mentoring me a lot. I have to give full credits to him. Has been supporting me. Actually, he actually what he have done. He have appraised me as an appraisal on my fellowship application on the Nautical Institute. I actually awarded a fellow at quite a very young age, to get the quite a prestigious UK Learn Society as a fellow. I think it's not easy. Everyone trying very hard to be a fellow in terms of in a professional world, and I'm very very fortunate to have him mentoring me so that I can get everything very smoothly. And I really would like you to invite him on your next podcast if you
Well, hopefully he sees this and comes on because I'm a big fan of
can.
Gordon.
Yes,
He
yes,
is the voice of the seafarer when it comes to LinkedIn.
yes,
Um,
yes,
I don't actually know anybody online who's doing as much for seafarers as that guy. If it's not
yes.
talking to Manjaro or raising money somehow for seafarers, he's posting about it, raising awareness all the time. I think he's got about 21,000 followers on LinkedIn, and so much support from the seafarer community. So, Gordon, if you're seeing this, we'd love to have you on. Okay, so
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about your life at sea. So obviously, like you said, and this is what we've heard from a lot of seafarers actually, is how they take opportunities, they never say no to an opportunity, and then what that means is sometimes they're working shore base, but they always know in the back of their head that there is an opportunity that they could eventually work on board again. Talk to me a little bit about your life at sea. Talk about some of the challenges that you faced, and what would you say is the most fulfilling part about working on board?
Well, if you have asked me this question when I was in a corporate, I would say I really miss sailing because I think every seafarers need to have the chance to expose themselves working in a corporate so that they can actually be grateful when they have the opportunity to choose between working ashore or going back to sea. So I think I am very fortunate to be in a position that I can share things between two of them because I was one of the few. Actually, I'm one of the few who went to corporate and then returned back to sea. And I wouldn't stop anyone to work in a corporate because it's really very subjective depending what you like. But of course, most important is you try. I always tell people you need to try because as long as you don't try, it's only a fairy tale. You see, because people always saying, "Hey, working on a ship is very nice. Just wearing a suit up, bring a briefcase every day. Clock in, clock out." And I always have that kind of perspective as well. So I went to take an MBA, thought that I can be a kind of be a distinguished candidates during the job interview. But when I became a lead auditor, it's never the case. One of the things that I question myself when I work in a corporate is that I ask my general manager, which is someone that I directly report to. I asked him, you know, I just wondering, is there any rest hour periods system that can be complied in the office? Because on the ship we have MLC, MLC well. I mean, this Maritime Labor Convention where we talk about rest hour periods for seafarers working. You see, so but in a corporate we do not have. So sometimes the manager calls you in the middle of the nights, and lead auditors like us, we audit a lot of ships. For me, I have at least 11 to 12 ships under my hand, and every ships with different time zone. They will call me, and I can't say, "Hey, very sorry, I'm sleeping now. Hey, I'm very sorry, I'm with my wife shopping right now." I can't. I really have to attend this email. I really have to attend this call because the ship need me to audit something, and this gonna be the rest of my life. I'm asking myself, is this what I wanted to do? I mean, for the next 20 to 30 years until I retire. Sometimes it's not because of the pay cut. I understand, when you work in the office, you don't get as much as at the sea. So I think one of the things that I decided to go back to ship is my wife. One day she told me, she said, "Hey, I knew you come back shore every day. Coming back home, you have your soup, you have your rice, you have your meal. But the thing is, you are mentally at home. You are physically at home, but your mind is at work. So, the moment when my wife told me that, I started to think, hey, you know what? I start to miss, the life at sea where I can work 100 days at sea continuously. And when I come back ashore, vacation, like right now, I'm vacation for the next 100 days as well. So I have 100 days on the ship and 100 days on land vacation. I think it is a real work life balance for me where I really focus quality time with my family without checking my phones. I mean, of course, except for invitation for podcasts like yours. But most of the time, I have space for my mentally prepared that I can write quality content on LinkedIn, where I can share more things than when I'm in a corporate. You see, so I think this is something that one of the reasons that I didn't speak it out on the social media. You see, sometimes on the social media you can't really share a lot of things because when you share all these things, a lot of them who are actually in the corporate will protest against you and say, "Hey, no, this is not the way. You are wrong." Blah blah blah. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. You really based on your own experience. I'm really speaking based on my experience that I think work life on the ship is not easy, but at least I have a break time, a solid break with my family. I think this is something that I always looking forward to. And working on a ship, one of the things I like is the process of the uh, daily routine job process in a way of we have some plans, we have discussion what to do and the progress of itself. Like example, painting a ship. So we really have a good teamwork. I can see I have a good chief. I have a good uh, crew where we really look into the weather, how we plan our jobs, the painting. Are we looking at the dry weather or wet weather? When are we entering piracy area? Are we preparing for anti-piracy equipments well? Do we have training? I really like this kind of routine, and it just keep my mind very alert all the time. And I always tell people, ship is like a house. So I always tell people as well. I have two houses. One is on the ship. One is during vacation. Same like family, you see. So when on the ship, you sail with different crew all the time. So you have less politics, office politics. So when you work in a corporate, you have this kind of unspoken office politics, which you can't share on LinkedIn. You see, because when you share, your CEO is watching. Hey, what are you writing there? Hello. But on the ship, we really have 20 crew, 25 crew max, good crew, where we really celebrate our time. We have karaoke, we have barbecue party, and we treat each other like brother and sister. You see, like a lifetime. And then once we go, we really noted back. We don't. We might sail with that person again, and we might not. But the thing is, we never feel sad. You see, so I think that is the wonder of sailing. I've sailed for 18 years. Since I was 18 years old until now, 36. I still met a few people that I have sailed before, and even some of them being very very good friend, but only sailed once, which means it's like once in a lifetime. If I never ever visit his or her country, his hometown, then that's it. That's the memory we have that certain period of life, and I really treasure them, and I really like that kind of feelings. So it's not like every day you see your same boss again. You work in a cubicle, 9 to 5. You punch card and go. I'm not trying to be biased about working in a corporate, but at least I'm speaking the truth as what I've experienced, and I've made a choice. And this choice is not everyone can be made. To some seafarers, they are actually switching to corporate by force because of medical reason. Perhaps they are unfit sailing anymore. So I always try myself to give myself fit enough to work on the ship. Not only physically fit, but also mentally fit. So I think having a good family support is very important. I really I want to take this opportunity as well to speak in this podcast. Really thank you to my wife, Emily, for supporting me in my career all the time. She was there with me when I was doing my class 2 and class 1 studies in New Zealand. We actually lived in New Zealand for 2 years. She was there for me when I was doing my studies. I actually cross checked with her about my verbal oral exams beforehand, all the Morse codes, all the rules of the roads. My wife is very well versed because she is the only person I share with. I never really talked about this to anyone in public before, but I really have to thank her. She was there for me when I need the most. And I also brought her to the ship. So basically, she see what is my job, and she really kind of very respect of what I'm doing, earning a very decent living in a professional way. So I think that is how I picture myself, not only to the public but also to my family about who I am.
Fantastic. Yeah, lots of admiration there. I mean, they say, behind every strong man is an even stronger woman. And
Yes.
and I totally agree. The importance of having someone behind you like that who supports you every step of the way makes making those hard decisions a little bit easier. Um, I wanted to raise 2 points to you off the back of what you just said. First point is totally agree with the unity aspect. In fact, actually, my last guest, um, Nikolai, he was highlighting the importance of creating that family bond while working on board because they are your brothers and sisters. And he said
Yes.
that it's the seafarers that make the effort to do the parties on the Friday nights, and they don't go in their cabins and hide away. They go down, they eat at the mess with their fellow crew, they have a drink, they
Yes.
do something. Those are the ones that have an easier time actually because they invest in their fellow crewmates. So I think that's really important. However, I
Mhm.
wanted to give you a different aspect to what you said about the idea of having 100 days on and 100 days off. When I speak to other seafarers, they actually said to me that when they come back home and they're in between contracts, they actually struggle to relax because they know that at any given time, their employer could call them up and say, "Hey, we're really sorry. Someone's just fallen sick, or we need you on board ASAP." And there's this almost there's there's this they're scared to almost say no because if they say no, they're worried and they lose their contract, they fall down the priority list, and that sometimes means that they struggle to then relax because they know that even if they're at home with their family, at any time the phone could call up and they got to go away again. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I have no idea whether would you agree with me or not. Whatever you do, uh, in terms of entrepreneurship or in terms of at work or career wise, money is one of the things that really driven us. One of them, okay, it's not the major, but one of them. So, my wife told me this. She told me uh, in her own language. She said, when you go on the ship early, you'll come back early. I never thought of that. So I was like, okay. So she has been a very positive mind. And of course, the case that you have mentioned earlier, I have actually faced before. We have people who are actually fighting on the ship, where he actually wanted to dismissal the captain because of some crew fighting. Before going to the authority, they want to dismissal the captain and ask me to join the ship in a very as quick as possible. And I took it as a challenge. And I don't think it's always the case because you see, when you do this thing, you're actually doing it in a good cause because you always remember people going home from a ship for a reason. So it's either a good reason or a bad reason. And you're also doing things for the favor of the company. Whether the company being grateful or not is another story. We are talking about companies that we work with loyalties because I did notice there are two types of seafarers. The type that they like to, jumping around with companies. If you look at their LinkedIn profiles, they really like one contract per one company and they just jump. One of the reasons for jumping, of course, because of the salary, and of course because of the promotion as well. But for companies that you stay long as in more than 10 or 15 years, I would say the promotion is quite slow, but at least the company have a stable records of your performance. They can gauge you, and of course, they can remember you in terms of going home or even joining a ship for replacing in urgent for some cases. So I would always think that you never really have faced this kind of scenario. They do have, but you don't always. Even like pilots as well, or even doctors. Like example, for doctors, if you go home suddenly in a ward, one of the patient really require you, you have to jump out from your bed and rush to the hospital to do some surgery. But do you do that every day? No. But as a professional, you would wanted your patient to sleep well overnight. Tomorrow you go and visit the wards, which is a normal routine day. Everybody wanted that way. Yeah. So I would say we have to think very positive in this. We are professional. We are not any slave. We are professional. But when it comes to a favor like this, take it as a challenge. Give yourself a time to think that you really go for a job like this. But as I'm kind of senior in my role or even my company, I would always give my company a certain days that my leave ends or when I'm ready to join the ship. Example, if I came back in January, I'll tell them, okay, by March 10, I can join ship anytime, even March 11 or in August. Anyway, as long as after March 10, I'm ready. You see, so when you speak this to the company, it is their obligation to oblige whatever you have spoken in a good manner, unless in urgency that they couldn't find a captain or any junior roles. Well, I think junior ranks will be not that difficult because it's a lot of them. Example, if you are in martial arts, you knew that for karate itself, for black belt, it's not a lot, but you know those white belt, blue, green belts, it's a lot of them. But we talk about apex. So the apex in the ship is the captain and the chief, which is getting narrower and you very hard to find someone who is trustable. Captain, yes. Uh, you see, there are also two types of captain in a company. One is newly joined. Okay, we understand you are a senior captain, but you newly joined. Another one is like James. He is not old captain, but he is long time. He started since third officer. He started since second officer. So you as a HR needed a help on the ship to relieve a captain. Who do you call? Of course, you will call someone who I know this guy. I know James, but this guy, okay, I know you have 10 years, but I don't know how you are. Sometimes it's not about your performance, but sometimes it's the trust. Is that they knew that, oh, James, whatever James ship joined, the crew is very happy. We have no issue at all. So I think these are the little nuggets we need to collect them in terms of career progression. Of course, you can say, hey, I'm going to quit tomorrow. I'm not going to work anymore. Okay, but if you talk about long term, I think these are the things you need to consider as well.
Yeah, lots of value there. I think
Yeah.
one point that you mentioned that was really important is when those times do happen, and you're totally right, it's part of the job. It happens to doctors, it happens to professions of all kinds.
Yes.
But when these things happen and people call us up last minute and they say, "Hey, look, we really need you right now," you accept it as a challenge, like you said, and you take on that challenge. But also, you accept it as a compliment. It's a compliment, and it's them saying, "We trust you.
People remember you.
We
Yes,
remember
I
you."
always think. I always think that. Yes. Do you know that how many seafarers actually being waiting at home, being jobless, thinking like, okay, do I have a ship for me? These days they have problems with the cadets, the interns, actually looking for sea time to collect prior for their license. Actually, I've seen them a lot on LinkedIn. They try to look for company to sail on the ship and all these things. So I am not in a very good position to help them, but at the same time, looking at this kind of in the society is very sad, because I think this is the responsibility of the academy. Where, example, if I hire you, I need to pay you the salary, right? So I think as I bring you in to study, looking for a ship, it is part of the program as well, which is not the case. So a lot of the cadets, uh, they cannot find a ship, and I find they are lost, so they cannot find any mentor to guide them in this matter. For me, I do not have much time on that, because um, I think mentor, you require experience, a very niche, specific experience with interest. So for me, I have the interest, but I don't have the experience. Sad to say, I am very fortunate that I always have ships on time. Because of, like I said, it's the loyalty of the companies, the performance. I believe loyalty speaks, because there are too many out there, too many captains who are very, very good. I would say they are excellent. But the thing is, you are excellent, but you have off the records in this particular company. But I have started my career journey since I was a junior. So I think that is one of the credential, unspoken, underrated credential that you have with the company relation, that make you stand out in the career in long term.
Yeah, totally agree. Couldn't agree more. Um,
Yeah.
I want to talk about social media. Now,
Mhm.
I know that you have, like you said, referred in this conversation already, the importance of using LinkedIn as a really important tool that's helped you in your career and even helps you get a job,
Mm.
which is fantastic. And it just goes to show you how powerful some of these tools are. What's your thoughts on maritime and shipping companies using social media more in the future, perhaps as a way to communicate to the next generation of seafarers? Obviously, LinkedIn has a professional tone and it attracts a certain individual. But from my experience and my research, we're also seeing now in countries like the Philippines, for example, where biggest labor force for seafarers, cadets are using TikTok, for example, and what we might see is a silly video of some young cadets dancing on board and doing,
Mm.
the group routine, it gets 500,000 views. 500,000 views, and a large part of that audience is seafarers or cadets who are interested in looking at that sort of content. So, my question to you is, how important do you think social media will play in the next 5, 10, 15 years when it comes to shipping companies and maritime companies that want to communicate directly to the seafarer and cadets?
Well, I think this have to boils down to the perspective of certain parties. If you ask me, it depends on which perspective, as an audience or as a captain. Because as a captain, I do not really wish to see my officer during duties or even off duty recordings the things on the ship without my consent. Because for me, confidentiality is very important. There are certain things on the ship that is not supposed to show to the public, which I feel. I mean, you really have to look into which perspective. For me, I don't think that is really necessary. You can film, but when you film that, there are some noises, especially on LinkedIn. There are a lot of technical noises. Example, you wear a hat, you wear a hard hat, and then you filming and talking, but without the straps. Then
Yeah.
people will say, "Hey, where's your straps?" Okay, if you wear a strap, blah blah blah. Then, hey, where's your goggles? Then people will start saying, "Hey, which company is this guy?" Then if you have some hard hats, hey, why this guy? So you are actually a double edged sword, where you either kill yourself to be famous or kill yourself to fail. So I wouldn't. If you look at my LinkedIn very closely, even with a huge followers, I try to refrain myself to film whatever I am doing on the ship. I try not to, but there are certain angle I can take without the ship's name, or without the. I think this is a respect of my job. Just imagine when you are a professional surgeon. You are doing an operation in a hospital, in a surgery room, and then you're filming, hey, everybody looking, look, I am removing a something tumor from the body. I don't think it's really necessary just because you want to, take this viewer. And then you will get a lot of attacks like, hey, excuse me, you are a surgeon. Why do you do film during you are doing a surgery or even in a kitchen? There is always a saying, what is in the kitchen remains in the kitchen. So people like to see what is the food served, even the food at some part of the preparation, sorry, fell on the floor and pick it up again, put back on the plates. Nobody knew as long as it's served out to the public, right? Because if you start to film what's happening in the kitchen, there are a lot of people start to say, hey, that's not the right way for you to cut the onions. This is very dirty. Why you didn't wash your cut pots? Why the fan is having dust? A lot of things. Then you are actually killing yourself. Like, okay, they are no wrong. They are right as well. But so, like I said, I always keep what's on the ship remains on the ship, and I don't really encourage people to do filming on it. You can, but maybe you can do some sharing. Bring them to your cabin, showing them, yes. But there are certain things on the ship navigation part, like aeroplanes. I do see pilots as well sharing the cockpits. But for me, as a perspective as a captain, I don't do that because I really respect my profession. But like you say, the new generation, you never knew what they're gonna do. So if you ask me, there are certain contexts people would like to see in terms of the content creating, depending on which platform. LinkedIn could be a different way how you approach them. TikTok, yes, but the thing is, TikTok, you will never know who is the audiences. You might have example like 500,000
Yeah.
viewers, but you never know who they are. But on LinkedIn, one thing I like, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, is that you can see who is actually been viewing your profile. That person might be your potential boss or a leader in your company or a maritime industry. So I always tell people, if you have 1 hour spending on social media every day, if you spend 1 hour on Facebook, 1 hour on Instagram, or 1 hour on TikTok, or 1 hour on LinkedIn, I would say it is LinkedIn that makes me connect with CEO, president, group CEO that can approach me to talk about maritime, like even yourself. But if I spend 1 hour on Facebook, I don't get that. I only see some funny videos, news, people are shouting, fighting. But on LinkedIn, I will get attracted by CEO where they invited, hey James, we have seen your credential, blah blah blah. So I think I feel very confident. I built my self confidence on LinkedIn, where I put a lot of my credential there, which you can't put it on, on places like Instagram. Like, hey, I have this fellow, I have my MBA. But if on LinkedIn itself, yes, it is good because when you put something, you have an MBA, you attract headhunter to say, hey, who is this guy? What is he doing? And then they'll click on the profile. But if
Yeah.
on TikTok you have MBA and that's it, there is there's no follow up. Like, okay, what is this guy is actually trying to do, or what is his background? Until you start to read your videos, you have to create videos and all these things. So if you ask me, I'm not trying to promote LinkedIn, but if you spend equally 1 hour on each of different platform, I think LinkedIn have that potential to attract more quality connections there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting point that you've made, and I think there's a lot of truth in what you've said. And I think that one thing we can both agree on moving forward is that regardless of whether a company chooses to adapt social media strategies into the recruitment process or encourages seafarers to use social media more, it has to be done so in a controlled environment. Because you're totally right, there is information and data that by no means can be shared to the public. But I would argue that perhaps there is a perspective that maybe you haven't looked at it from. For example, I'll give you a case study. So I know an Indian seafarer by the name of Captain Sam. He has about 50,000 followers on Instagram. and a large
Mm-hmm.
part of his content is based around motivation. And he does these fantastic videos where he is teaching his audience through short format videos and providing a lot of value to seafarers on how to use navigation tools, highlighting the importance of education, highlighting the importance of working out and staying fit, and even providing workout routines of how you can retain muscle mass in small, concise spaces that are available on ship, which I think is really valuable. And the comment you mentioned about not knowing who's seeing your content, somewhat that is true. However, a really good way when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, if you would like to see the people that are interacting with you, look at the comments, because the comment section is a really great research tool of being able to understand, firstly, who's watching, and secondly, look at the questions they're asking, because that gives you great ideas of what more content to make. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's some interesting points you make. Certainly, as a professional myself, I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn because that is ultimately the platform that could mostly benefit my career. But I think for younger seafarers, and we hear a lot of in the corporate world about this thing called recruitment retention and the crisis of trying to find seafarers, which from my experience of living in the Philippines is not true. There's a lot of cadets in the Philippines. They just can't get jobs and they can't get their sea
Mm-hmm.
time. That's the big problem. But
True.
what I will say, the final thing I'll say on it is, I think that you're right. Somewhat, there is definitely more time that younger generation seafarers could spend on professional platforms like LinkedIn. But I really do believe that we can't ignore the power of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And instead
Mm-hmm.
of perhaps neglecting them, we should harness them as an industry and use them as a tool to benefit our seafarers, provide value. Because when I watch a video of a lifestyle vlogger who is just doing like a day in the life at sea, it's
Mm-hmm.
so it might not be educational. It might just be nice pictures of sunsets and playing cricket with their team, but it actually
Mm-hmm.
shows you an insight of their career, which might change the mind of, say, a 15-year-old guy in India who goes, I don't know what I want to do with my life. They see this video and they're like, this is what I want to do with my life. That might be the piece of content that changes their mind. What's your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on
Well, if you talk about social media today, I think that is the certain aspect of influence. They have been very fortunate, to living in that kind of era where they can see live videos showing all these things instead of during my time where they only talk with imagination, only photos, or time to time they have a little bit of videos that actually release out with certain extent that they only show what they need to show by certain group of people. But now it's like anyone can show anything. So if you talk about this, I also, I wanted to thank this newer generation using this social media influence to actually showcasing the life at sea, where I think it really helps a lot in terms of decision making, making their career change, where people really see what's inside of the ship itself. If not, during my time, I really only imagine. When I was studying in Malaysia Maritime Academy, they call it an MMA. We used to march wherever we go, and we have to go in a group of three minimum. You can't walk alone, so you have to, with the full white uniforms, you have to march anywhere within this boundary of the school. You have to march from canteen or march from the quarters to the main hall. Just you have to march. So I always have this kind of imagination. Do I need to march on the ship as well? Do I
that?
have the sufficient space on deck to march? You see, so that is the thing has been absolute in today's social media, and you really can see how it looks like on a ship before you step on the ship. When even during your high school, you can really see. So I think we really need to give credits to these video creators showing the career as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was the exact same in the Philippines. When I lived in the Philippines in 2022, 2023, I went to some of the maritime schools. I even studied there and done some training with them. And one of the things that really amazed me was seeing this marching, seeing this military training
Yes,
style.
yes.
And one
Mhm.
day, I spoke to the PE teacher, and I said, "Hey, what is the reason behind doing this? Because I've been on board. I know that they do not do this sort of stuff while they're on board."
Yes.
And he said to me, "Mentality. We are breaking them now, so they are unbreakable in the future." And I think that although there is some, although for some, especially in the Western world, we might look at that and be like, "Whoa, this is too much." Actually, there's some beauty to it, somewhat. I know it's wrong
Mhm.
to say, but these guys and girls go on to then becoming fantastic leaders and can deal and cope with a lot of pressure, which
Mhm.
somewhat from a wellness perspective maybe isn't okay, but there is
Mhm.
also some sort of beauty to it. I think that seafaring isn't for everybody. I think that
Yes.
seafaring is for a specific kind of mindset, like the military.
Mhm.
The military isn't for everybody. It's a specific
Mhm.
person that this career choice is for. And I think that
Mhm.
somewhat, although it's extreme, I think that somewhat what they're doing is they're trying to weed in the and find out who's really made for this. Um,
True.
which I think there's a lot of good behind that, but also maybe we could do it in a deliver it in a better way. Um, I know that we're running out of time, so I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
and this is around the future of shipping. So, one of the big key phrases that we're hearing a lot in the shipping industry is autonomous shipping, and
Mhm.
AI. It's something that's coming very very quickly. I know I've seen it in the UK. We already have autonomous ships, the small
Mhm.
tugboats. They're they're
Yes.
they're, they're already becoming autonomous, and slowly it's just starting off small and bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually, who knows, LNGs, maybe fully autonomous one day. I don't think cruise ships will ever be autonomous because I think part of the experience is the people. So I don't think they could ever. Although who knows? Maybe one day there'll be robots serving people on.
Yes.
That'd be pretty
Yes.
crazy. But my question to you is, what's your thoughts on autonomous shipping? And one of the things I heard recently in a research paper, which I thought was really interesting, is that there is an argument that autonomous shipping will actually bring more jobs for seafarers because there's this idea that shipping companies will build these factories that will have 50, 60, 70 bridges built within them, and seafarers will come onto the bridge and operate the ship without physically being on board. So they'll be shore based, but they'll be operating the ship. And this will
Mhm.
have a necessary to bring in more jobs for seafarers. What's your thoughts on this? And what do you think is the future of shipping?
Well, if you ask me in that possibility, yes, I would agree. And the existence of autonomous has been there, and I've seen it's running in the inland lakes. They have most of them are the freshwaters vessel. I would say these are the places that are not being exposed much to heavy weather or being very stagnant routes where point A to B, just A and B, don't go somewhere far or somewhere complicated. But if you look into people like us who are actually running across the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, where 20 days you don't see a land for 20 days. I would say it might not be in my lifetime to witness an autonomous where it can cross the ocean, at least for now. But like you say, we never know in the future. But I have been very fascinating in terms of the development of the autonomous because if you look at my LinkedIn profile very precisely, I was actually in the Nautical Institute in the ATEC group, where the technologies autonomous group, where we share a lot of things within our groups of ourselves, where we have a lot of specialists there, including myself, to talk about the development of autonomous. We try to make it very confidential before we make it published on the Nautical Institute article, or even to brought up to the IMO resolution. So the thing is, uh, I don't know. I have seen a lot of hazards, disasters uh, among us. If you look into the latest Baltimore bridge being collapsed, even with human, still accident is very hard to be avoided. So we try to think in a way. If you look at things with a very positive manner, yes, it is possible. But if you take further risk assessment, you're thinking about what if things break down, what if the screw is loose, what if this, what if that. I think it's quite hard. Uh, Example, if you look into aeroplanes, even planes right now, they are very well developed in terms of navigation compared to ships navigation. Yet we still have two pilots sitting there, although it's fully automated for them, but they still need someone to sit there to make sure things are being okay. I think they will reduce the manpower where people, like you mentioned, assigned to work ashore to navigate the ship. Yes, but they might need one guy, the I would not say the fortunate or the unlucky one, someone to be walking around the shopping mall to make sure that everything is running fine. You see,
Wow,
so
that's going to be a very lonely job. Whoever has that one, right?
yeah, it's like the lighthouse. Example, like a lighthouse keeper, right? You say lighthouse, everyone is advancing, you can blah blah blah, but why there are still keepers in the lighthouse? This is the thing. You still have one guy, okay, one guy with houses they build with but you still need one guy. I think. I mean, based on my perspective, because sometimes things on the ship is not as simple as just sweep the floor just to keep it clean. It has a lot of things in our mind. It's like, for example, the ship that I sail on is container ships, and we carry a lot of containers where you sometimes do not know what is the commodity inside until you ask. I mean, as a general cargo, we are not talking about the dangerous cargo which has been pre-declared before loading on the ship. But if you talk about general cargo, example, you walk on the deck, suddenly there's a leaking. Then you see, okay, where is this come from? You touch the residue. Is it oil, liquid, chemical? What is this? And you cannot touch by a naked hands. You have to wear a very chemical glove to make sure what is this. Once you mention, okay, it's oil, where this oil come from? Is it come from one of the containers? What number? Where is the position? How is it leaks? And where is the direction flow? Is it rolling? Where it's a little bit complicated. Where you still need one guy to sit there to witness. Sometimes on the ship, we take photo to send to the superintendent in the office. Example, certain things breaks down. Okay, especially on deck when I was a chief, there are certain things that been dented. Certain things like the ladder has been broken. I try to snap photo, try to put video, but it's very hard to describe to the superintendent on the ship. I told them, hey, you know what? Just come to the ship and see by yourself. I have witnessed one time we have broken winches. We even have a damaged anchor windlass as well. So the whole thing is haywire. So the chain and all these things. And I tried to make some video, and sometimes you just can't verify things by the video. You really say, hey, when your ship is coming to the next port, I really need to fly there. I need to see by my own eyes. So I think we still need one guy on the ship, and routinely there might be people come on the ship where example this autonomous vessel alongside, and then there are a group of people to be assigned to come to the ship to clean the ship, and then the ship can sail with the person control ashore. I think yes, that concept can be done. But and you need to be have a very, I always tell people, you need to have a very high-tech firefighting system, autonomous system for firefighting. They always, you see, people always concentrate on navigation. They don't talk about firefighting. I want to ask them, what is the AI firefighting system? Do you have I've seen there's like a Pokemon ball for fire extinguisher where they have a fire smoke in a room. You just throw like a Pokemon ball and it's really extinguish the fire. So I mean, we really have to come to that point where you have robots. Okay, now you press the robots button, go to deck 3 on the port side, cargo hold number 3, we have fire in the cargo hold. Okay, you send 3 robots there and fight. So is it being trained well with the chip? Is it being updated? On the equipment. So this, I think, if you want to talk about autonomous, we have to talk from the perspective of saving the ship first before talking how to move the ship, because fire can be happen anywhere. Even the ship in port can be caught fire. Yeah. So if we can really find a way where without humans we still can fight the fire efficiently, effectively, save the ship, then okay, then we talk about navigation. Then next we talk about navigation. So that's my perspective. If you
That's a
ask me.
really interesting perspective. I have, because you're totally right. Actually, whenever we talk about autonomous shipping, all the focus point is around navigation. And actually, I think you're the first person I've heard talk about safety in particular when it comes to firefighting and things like this, because this is extremely important subject.
Because it's an asset. The ship is the company asset. The cargo is a client's asset. So we are carrying assets without humans. So it's like, okay, we can do that. Safety first. How we improvise this? You see?
Yeah, for sure. And what about when
Mhm.
it is an LNG as well? We're talking about cargo that could create catastrophic results if the safety isn't immaculate. I think that to conclude, I think that machines are going to become more advanced, and I actually believe that there probably is a very high chance. Maybe it's not in your lifetime, maybe it's not in my lifetime, but I do believe there is a chance that machines will end up becoming so sophisticated that they do, handle these problems in such a perfect way
Yes, yes,
that may be much better than the average human. Um,
yes, they do.
we are very far away from that for now, and I think
Mhm,
seafarers will still have a very important role to play in the years to come when it comes
mhm,
to transporting goods. Um, and until anything changes, I can't see people having their jobs losing their jobs, etc. Because they are needed right now, big time. And what happened in America with the Baltimore Bridge is a perfect case study to show you what can go
mhm.
wrong.
Well, if you ask me, I don't think I would afraid. I would not use the word losing a job, but I would say it's part of the
Yeah,
evolve of part of evolution as well. From like for us, as a human, you start walking, and then you have the horse ride, and then you have the automobile. Now you have a battery, fully battery car, hybrid. All this. So I think it's part of evolve. So I wouldn't say try to neglect, but we accept it with open mind. Okay, we want to talk about this. Okay, what should we do? What is the solution? What is the next? I think it is good discussion, especially for the new generation. They are the future leaders. I always tell people, the cadets, I always tell people, hey, this is the future captain of the industry. This is the future leader. We are not. We are, another 10 years, maybe we are absolute. We are finished. But these are the future. These guys. So yes, that is the thing.
I think that's a great point to finish it on. Thank you so much, James, for taking
No
the time
problem.
to speak to me today. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've learned a lot from this conversation as well. I
Mhm.
think you're a very valuable voice within the seafarer community. I think that you have a really interesting position that you sit in because you can speak to the corporates as well as speaking to the labour market. And I think
Mhm.
that puts you in a really great position to be able to relate and understand both sides of the industry. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I really enjoy speaking to you. So thank you so much.
No problem. I think the issue, before we end this, I would like to say that I have met a lot of greater minds on the ship, but the thing setting aside from them is that the ability to deliver the message.
Yeah.
So I would say people really need to stand out and speak. Example, like if you look at the TED Talk, YouTube channel, sharing, I think there are a lot of people who are better than them. But the thing makes them different is they dare to talk, they dare to share. So I would like to make that kind of person who dare to share. But the things that I share is not something new, but something is not being spoken in public. So I like to use my face, my name, my publicity. I always ask myself, like I mentioned before, when I was on LinkedIn, I tried to find a job and I did. And I left, I went back to sea. So now what should I do with my 30,000 followers on LinkedIn? This is my next mission. My next mission is to create awareness, to speak about things that people who do not speak about from the ship perspective. And I think I'll use my voice to bring it further to the corporate, to the leaders in the industry. And who knows, maybe one day, because of my sharing, I might be sitting in very top position in the industry, not in a corporate way, but maybe in the IMO or somewhere close to IMO, that I can deliver this message saying that, hey, we have something to speak out, but not to mention silent, but we have ideas, great things to share to the awareness to the corporate in the public.
Yeah, totally agree. And hopefully, this is extremely multicultural labour market when it comes to seafarers. But hopefully, more seafarers can watch podcasts like this, resonate with your message, and have the confidence, like you said, to speak out, and market themselves, sell yourself. You're not just a
Mm-hmm.
seafarer. You can be much
Mm-hmm.
more than a seafarer because you have a unique perspective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
use your platform available to share your message.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, there might be many more James Foongs out there if they have the bravery to do exactly what you've done. Thank you, James.
Mm-hmm. No
And
problem.
I look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Let's do this again
Okay.
sometime. I'd love to do an episode 2 because we've got a lot more we can
Yeah,
talk.
sure. Sure, of course. Yes.
Thanks, James.
No problem.